Thank you, Monica. Thanks for having me. This is really hard being the last speaker. This is way past my bedtime. Does my hair look all right? Because my hairdresser had the day off, which is very rude. Is it all right? Excellent. It is such a pleasure to tell a story just for the sake of storytelling. So this story begins in 1991. I was 17 years old. And it was the last day of high school. I went to an all-girls school, and on the last day of every term, it was free dress and a half day. And free dress was a really big deal. In Australia, we call that mufti day. Funny word, don't know where we got that from, mufti day. And a lot of thought went into mufti day when you're a 17-year-old girl, but I didn't have a lot of agency in my life growing up. And the only way I could choose what I wore that day was if I made it myself, old school, with a sewing machine. And so that day, I remember exactly what I was wearing. I made myself a pencil skirt, a nice, tight, just above the knee pencil skirt, but I didn't design it very well because the split at the back was far too short, and so I walked like a penguin. And it was khaki. Don't know why I chose that colour. It was a khaki pencil skirt. Then I teamed it with a collared, short-sleeve, button-up shirt. Remember, it was 91, forgive me. And for some reason, it was also khaki. So I don't know why I did this, but when I look back on it, I was dressed as the future Queen of Australia, Bindi Irwin. And I went to my last day of school, and I just recently had a birthday, and my friends decided to throw me a surprise party. And the party would be held at my friend Lisa's house, which was just a couple of blocks from school. And so they all did the bolt to Lisa's house. I was suitably delayed. And then I arrived at the party, and a surprise. But there was something a little bit odd to me. I noticed that everyone was there. My whole year was there. Even the kids that didn't like me were there. There were 73 kids in my year, and 69 of them were there. Like, the really smart kids were there. The major dorks were there. The mean girls were there. The cool girls were there. Everyone was there. And I remember thinking, why are they all at my party? Very suspicious situation. And then I remember my mate Lisa, her mum, the whole way through high school was renovating that house. A beautiful Federation home in Rosenfeld, and she was always renovating. There was always a tradie out the front cutting timber. There was always someone up a ladder painting something. So it was just the landscape of Lisa's house. So I didn't pay any attention when a tradie walked through the house. And this tradie walked straight through the middle of the living room, put down his massive boom box. He was not a tradie, he was a stripper. My friends all the chicks I went to school with put $5 each in to pay for a stripper for my 17th birthday. Now, you will not enjoy this story if you get hung up on the fact that I was a minor. Okay, let that go. It was the 90s. Lots of shit went down in the 90s. And to be honest, I felt quite safe because we outnumbered this guy 69-1. And then he presses play, and this guy has clearly done this before. My friend Katrina, first before he pressed play, my friend Katrina, who had pulled off this whole thing, she pulled one of those office whirly-twirly chairs out and put it in the middle of the lounge room. And she said, Lucy, you can handle yourself in any situation. So we just wanted to see if you could handle yourself in this one. And then I was sat on this chair, and then this hot tradie presses play on his big boom box. Remember, it was the 90s, it was big, and I will never forget. The song was that famous Yellow song. Chicka. That song goes for 6 minutes. That song still gives me goosebumps. In fact, they've just arrived. Anyway, this guy totally knew what he was doing, and he had this whole routine. And he stuck me on this chair, but the routine was kind of lent on him being able to wrap my legs around his waist. But praise be the pencil skirt. Saved my day, saved my modesty, and honestly, my knees were just jammed together. And he did his thing, and I still can picture all my friends screaming their heads off, and like groups of them coming up behind the couch and then screaming and disappearing behind the couch like that whack-a-mole game. And one of them completely lost her voice and couldn't sing in the choir that night. And it was just total hysteria. Like, we had never seen a dude undress, none of us. It was total chaos. And then at some point, the school captain-elect decided that he really should not go all the way. And she mentioned to Katrina, make sure this guy doesn't take everything off. And so he only went down to his little red G-string. And the rest of the day, to be honest, I have blocked out. Maybe a trauma response, I don't know. But the next thing I remember about that day was being in the car with my parents that evening on the way to speech night. So at my school, we didn't have a proper school hall. We had all our school assemblies in an underground car park with very dirty carpet. So when we had our big speech thing at the end of the year, we went all the way into Sydney Town Hall for our speech day. And we were on the way in the car to speech day, and on the radio comes Chicca, Chicca. And I honestly thought that song was whispering to my parents what had happened that day. I wanted to vomit. And my parents are super churchy people, so it was very unusual they were even playing the radio of Sinners. They normally listen to churchy music in the car. And on that day, Chicca, Chicca. Then we get into town hall, and luckily I could just abandon my parents, and I had to go and collect an award and stuff. And the prefects, well, I was becoming a prefect, so there was this big deal with the prefects. And the year 12s who were leaving, they were on stage, got a big round of applause. Then they left the stage. And then the new prefects, we stepped forward for this big, beautiful applause from the school community. That hall is big. There were 3,000 people in there. All the academic staff, all the students, all their parents. And we're looking out to this massive audience, huge round of applause. And in the silence, after that applause, my friend Katrina goes, Chicca, Chicca. And in that moment, I honestly thought everyone in that hall knew what I'd been up to that day. I nearly died. And that song still gives me goosebumps when I hear it. These days, I tell stories for a living, and I mainly speak at conferences and events, and I often speak at Sydney Town Hall. And to this day, when I get up on that stage, I might be giving a big keynote speech, or sometimes I do little stand-up sets, or I'm, introducing the Lord Mayor Clover Moore. But every time I get on stage, I look out at that audience, and my idiotic brain goes, Chicka, chicka. Thank you.